Pirates! This is Dylan from Yagamoto, and today we have another deck profile for you guys. This past week I entered 2 separate locals in order to film my Locals Adventure episode 3. I brought my favorite character of the show, Fire Fist Ace. First locals was a huge 40 player locals. I ended up going undefeated until the 5th and final round, and I got defeated in the finals by Grape Doffy. I didn't lose hope, went to another locals that Saturday. I ended up going another 4 rounds and finally got my undefeated first place. Alright, no more distractions. Let's get right into the deck profile. Alright, so now we have our leader, Portgasty Ace. What he does is basically while attacking or when being attacked, he gains 1000 power if you pitch an event. This basically makes it so that you can run a lot of events in your deck and each one of them become a 1k counter just in case you can't use them, making it so that there's very few cards in your deck that will be dead. Starting off, we have our main searcher of the deck, Izo. Izo is going to be able to search about 20 cards in our deck, whether it's events or characters, he can search them all. Also a 1k counter, very good card, self-explanatory. Next is going to be our secondary searcher, we have Buggy. Buggy's another one of my favorite characters in the show. I love him, the genius clown himself. He can search any event, well any red event in your deck. Your deck is made up 18-ish events and he almost will never whiff. He's also a 1 for 3, making it a lot easier for him to swing into your opponent's life. Next, we have our first 2k counter, we have Otama. Otama is an amazing 2k counter, one of the best in the game. Not only is it 2k counter, it's also a on play, give your opponent's character minus 2000 power this turn. That combos really well with a lot of the other cards that we run in the deck such as Fire Fist and such as Marco. Next we have our 2-drop. We have Fossa, our chump blocker. He is a 1k counter chump blocker, which makes him very versatile. Just kind of hold them in your hand until the very end. When your opponent thinks that they can swing for game, drop 2 of them, boom, 2 more life for you. Also searchable through Izo. Our searchable 2k counter, Jozu. You gotta have one of these at least in your deck. You will very rarely use this rush effect. It might come up in some niche situations because your leader is a Whitebeard pirate, so you can use the rush effect if you would like. Remember that this will only happen if you're under 2 life. Most of the time, however, you will be only using it for the 2k counter. Next, we have our 4-drop Marco. This is the blocker Marco. It is now restricted to 1, so you can only play 1. This was an amazing card in set 3, and honestly, if this card came back and 5-drop Marco got limited to 1 to replace it, I actually think that this deck would become a lot better. I would cut the Fossas, run 4 of these, it would be amazing. It can be brought back with any Whitebeard Pirate card, or you just pitch any Whitebeard Pirate card to bring it back. That includes the events and the characters. Awesome card, love it. Next is the 5-drop Marco. I know people are going to tell me like, wow, dude, I can't believe you thought the other one is better. I like it because, I mean, Ace is a control deck. You're just trying to control their board while defending yourself, right? So having 2 of these on board and just being able to cycle them over and over again, super annoying for your opponent. Stalls out the game a little bit longer so you can start getting your big events and your big bodies on the board. I prefer this one. But that doesn't mean that this card is bad. This card is still amazing. On play, KO at 3k power or less. Combos really well with cards like Otama. You can, on your 6th on curve, drop Otama, minus 2k to a 5k body like a Chaka or a Zoro, drop Marco, KO that. Very powerful card. Not only that, he also has the res effect, and it's for any event. And if you guys remember, Ace is a very event heavy deck, meaning that this card will almost always come back to life. Next, we have Pell, the only card from OP04 in this deck. This card is amazing. It's basically like a Nico Robin, Don X1, KO one of your opponent's characters with the power of 4k or less. So it's slightly better than Nico Robin. Nico Robin only KOs a 3k or less. This card's amazing. I did just finish filming the Locals Adventure episode 3. I'll be editing it and posting it sometime this week. You will see that this card is a game changer. He basically acts as another 4 copies of Newgate. Newgate's effect is add to Dawn, KO a 3k or less when attacking. This KO's a 4k or less. We lost Newgate, he's only at 1 now. So we played this on the turn before, and it combos really well with cards like Crossfire. So you go Crossfire minus 4k, add 1 Dawn here, swing, it KOs at 8k or under. Very, very powerful card now. Alright, next we have our Ace. Portugas the Ace. You are playing the Ace leader, you must play this card. I'm just kidding, like this card is just amazing. Combos really, really well with cards like Pell, as well as Fire Fist. There was one point that I was playing against yellow and they had the 5-7 Randolph on board. They had the 7-8 Big Mom on board. I just burned a life and I was like, damn, I'm kind of in a bad position. I top deck the Ace. I play Ace minus 3k on both of them and then activate Fire Fist, KO his entire board. It was, made me want to shed a tear. It was amazing. Ace, very powerful card. It's a 7-7 and it has Rush. So everything that you could want in a card, this has it. Not only that, this can also be pitched for blocker Marco, so just in case like you open 3 of these and you're like, man, how am I ever gonna play this? Blocker Marco, you can still pitch this card to bring it back to life. Very good card. Next we have our one of Edward Newgate. I mean, even back when this card was at 4, I was only running 3 of them. I think you could probably get away with 2, but now that it is at 1, it does feel kind of bad. At least it's searchable, and now we do have Pell in place of it, so Pell can come out earlier, deal with the board. If they remove Pell, you drop Newgate. There was one game that I was playing against a Queen player, and got to the point where he removed 2 of my Pells. I dropped Newgate, he didn't have any red rocks, he kept trying to drop big bodies. Every time he dropped the big body, I round table, attach 2, swing into his life for 12, KO the big body. He just was never able to establish a board with this card. So still an amazing card. I don't think I will ever cut it. Alright, next we got our events. So as you can see, like this, I would say is about 2/3 of the deck is characters. The rest of it is all events. Most of the time, like, you really wouldn't have that many events in a deck. But because you have Ace Leader effect to be able to use it as a counter, you can run a lot more events. So, first things first, we have our 1-drop event package. We have 3 guard point, y'all already know what this does. 1 cost, gain 3000 power. Radical Beam, best card. If we could run more, we'd run more. Alright. After that, we have Crossfire. If you guys remember, about 3 months ago when I did my very first Ace deck profile that I won the Sword Championships with, I only was running this card at 2. At the time, I agree with it because the meta was a lot faster. Now that the meta is a lot more control heavy, this card works wonders. I bumped it up to 4 immediately. This card combos insanely well with Pell because anything that is 8k or under is gone. So you're thinking, let's look at yellow, right? They dropped the 6-8 Parasparrow, okay? Crossfire, add 1 Dawn to Pell, swing, 7 at his life, KO the Parasparrow. Powerful. They dropped the 8 cost Katakuri, same thing, 8k. 7 draw Big Mom, same thing, 8k. So this is hitting all of those big bodies that Big Mom brings out. So I love the fact that Crossfire is just gonna go -4, puts it in range of Pell, KO. Anything that's 7 cost or under will then get KO'd by Whitebeard. So let's say like the 5-7 Randolph, anything that is 7k is this plus Whitebeard KOs it. Next, we have Fire Fist. If you guys have been watching me for a while now, you know I love this card. I was even running 4 in Zoro. It's just too good, man. Like especially in an event heavy deck like this, where majority of the time you're gonna have like 3 or 4 events in your hand. This card is almost never dead. KOs 2 different cards, 5k and 4k. Both of those are really, really high numbers. It does wonders against Law. You can, let's say they play a blocker Law on board and then they drop a Zoro, swing at you with the Zoro. Sure, no problem. You can just use Otama and this. That's a total of 4 Dawn and then 1 pitch, right? So yeah, it's like 3 cards, but you're running so many events anyway that this card is not dead. You clear their blocker Law, you clear their Zoro, and then you can just swing into whatever is rested on their side of the board. That makes it so that they can never really fully build a board because you're seeing this card so often. You're running 4 of them. You have 2 ways to search it with Buggy and with Iso. Card's amazing. I love it. And like I said earlier, when I was able to wipe that yellow board, man, this card just feels amazing. After that, this Round Table. This was my favorite card of set 3. I loved the idea of it back in the day when we were running the multiple Newgates. It was my out to yellow Big Mom. You would just play Newgate on curve because they're always going to make you go first. You go first, you play Newgate on curve, and then they drop 10 drop Big Mom, you round table, add 2 Dawn to Newgate, swing, KO. This plus Newgate KOs anything in the game right now because the highest attack point character at the moment is going to be 12, and minus 10 makes it a 2, Newgate KOs a 3. Also combos really well with Pell if you need it a little bit earlier in the game. And then finally, if it is a dead card, it's a 1k counter due to Ace's effect. Very powerful. Finally, Flame Emperor. The coolest card the Ace has access to. Honestly, this should have been the alt art. Unfortunately, it is an Ace only card. I love it, and I wasn't a believer. Like 3 months ago when I made my deck profile, I did not run this card. I ran only the round table because this was the way that I was getting out of Big Mom. Now that the meta has slowed down, this card hits almost everything. So many decks are running 8k or unders, or you're running 8k's L as like their main big body. So many Katakuris running around in queen decks, in yellow decks in general. This clears it and gives you plus 3k so that you can swing for double swing. And double swing into yellow decks is huge because you want to try and get them to under 2 life before they can drop their Big Mom. So this card is now a huge card. Also, it can be combined with Crossfire and hit anything in the game. Because Crossfire -4, this hits an 8. Highest attack point character right now is 12,000. Kills anything in the game. Blue Kaidos that are bouncing everything, no problem. KO, swing 9k. Yellow Big Moms, 12k. You're burning my life, no problem. Crossfire, Flame Emperor, KO, gone. Gets rid of any threat in the game. Amazing card. I love it, and once again, it is a 1k counter. Alright, so before we end this video, I did want to quickly go over the best and the worst matchups of Ace. As of right now, control deck Ace, it does have a hard time against yellow. It is what it is. We can usually handle 1 and even 2 Big Moms, but usually once it hits that third one, it's backbreaking for us. I'm currently still devising a couple of different ways to check the Katakuri and the Big Mom matchups, and I'll talk about them at the very end when I talk about the changes that I want to make to the deck. We are pretty good against the control decks of the format, such as Rebecca, Queen, Purple Yellow Croc, Starter Deck Croc, all of those kind of decks that are just going to be trying to control the board until the late game. We can grind with them while also being more aggressive with cards such as Ace and Flame Emperor. And that just makes it so that anything that they want to play, we're just going to clear it. We swing high, forcing them to not be able to stabilize, and then at the very end when they're dropping their big bodies, we're able to round table and then just clear it out of the way. I think that the control matchup is typically not too big of a problem. We're also very good against the Whitebeard matchup, which is another really big deck in the current format. Anything that they play, we have an answer for. All of their 4-drop 6Ks, their 6-drop 8Ks, like they're all within range of our removal spells. So Whitebeard will usually take all of their life and then rely on their big board and a huge hand size to be able to win the game. Well, what happens when your entire board is cleared off? Then all your swinging is with leader, and with cards such as Flame Emperor, we're forcing you to get to 0 life a couple turns faster. So okay, you want to stabilize with like some chump blockers at the very end then. Well, that doesn't matter for us either because we have cards such as Fire Fist, which can instantly remove all of your chump blockers. So as of right now, the Whitebeard matchup has not really been too big of an issue for me. I don't think it's that hard for Ace. We're also pretty decent against Law and Zoro. The only issue is if they are hyper aggressive and we can't stabilize, it does get pretty hard. But we do run a lot of removal cards that do well against Law, such as Fire Fist. You're able to clear their board off before they're able to shambles, and Fire Fist will also clear off all of these weenies that Zoro is trying to play in order to swing at you a lot of different times. So I think that matchup is not, those two matchups are not too bad either. So some of the changes that I would make moving forward, I would like to take out something like the Pell, one of the Pells, Crossfire, Round Table. I know I just spent the whole video talking about how amazing these cards were, but there are certain scenarios that I believe that they aren't as strong. For example, Pell is fighting for the 5-drop spot with 8 different cards, right? Like you're running 4 Pell, you're running 4 Marcos, and they're all fighting for that 5-drop spot, which is great when you're going first because on curve it's a very powerful card. But let's say you're not on curve anymore and you're stuck with like 3 Pells in hand because you weren't able to play them on curve. I think that it does get a little bit cloggy because they aren't a 1k counter, and there are some other cards that I would like to play in place of that. And for Pell, I'm thinking about replacing with a Nico Robin because it reaches that curve 1 turn ahead of time. So if you're going first, you would just turn 1 Buggy and then turn 2 Nico Robin. It follows the same purpose as Pell, which is like a round table and crossfire combo piece. I think Nico Robin could do really well in that position. Another card that I am currently working on testing out is Curly D. I saw the deck list that recently topped at the Niagara Falls Regional, and I thought Curly D was a genius choice. I mean, it's an amazing card. It searches all of your 1-drops in the deck, such as Otama, all of your searchers, and it hits that 3-Dawn turn perfectly as well. So let's say you go into 3-Dawn turn, you swing for 5, and they don't establish anything from a trigger. Well, now you can just drop Curly D for 2, search a Buggy, Buggy search Fire Fist, and you're set. You got 2 bodies on board, and you got a Fire Fist in hand. I feel like Curly D fits that 3-Dawn turn perfect. Now for the crossfire and the round table, the reason why I think I need to cut down on a couple of these is because we run a lot of cards in our deck that are minus. Otamas, crossfires, round tables. Sometimes you just have so many minus cards and there's no way to get rid of them because you don't have any Pells, you don't have any Marcos, and you don't have your Fire Fist. So the cards that I will probably replace those with is probably going to be like a Jet Pistol. Jet Pistol actually is pretty strong in this format because 1, it removes everything that Whitebeard has. Anything that's like a 4 cost 6k, Jet Pistol hits that and you don't even really need to do anything. You just, boom, gone. You don't need to minus it at all. It's in that perfect range. And Jet Pistol also hits a lot of different cards in this current format, a lot of problem cards such as the blockers. And I just think it's a pretty decent card, and it can act as a 1k counter if it ends up being stuck in your hand. Another thing I would like to add in place of that crossfire and the round table is increase the 2k counters. As of right now, we're only running the 4 Jozus and the 4 Otamas. That makes it so that we're only running a total of 8 2k counters. That means if you swing at me for 7, I'm probably not going to be very happy because I might have to drop more than just 2 cards as most other decks would. They would just drop a 2 and a 1. I might have to drop 2 1s in an event, and that feels really bad. So I would like to increase the 2k counters in the deck at least up to 10. So those would be like the main changes that I would like to make in the deck. And that's it for the deck profile. If you guys enjoyed this content, smash that subscribe button for me to get OPTCG content thrusted straight into your YouTube feed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and swing for game. Peace. Takes you a minute.